Well, welcome, Zurich. Good to see you, Anna Maria, and I'm so excited to have you on our Leaders Who Care series. How you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you so much, Mark, for having me here. I'm super excited to be on this series, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
Me too, and I'm excited for you to share some of your insights on the great stuff you're doing with emerging companies and whatnot. But I'm not going to give away too much for right now. So first of all, shout out to our mutual friend Stephen Ibaraki for introducing us. He's the master of things like that and more. There's no doubt about
Definitely.
it. So thanks, Stephen. And could you briefly, that's the key word, could you briefly introduce yourself? We'll go into all the business and stuff after, but just a little bit about, so where's Anna Maria Meshkurti from? What's the background, family, things like that. And we'll go from there. How's that?
All right, so I'll do it very brief. I'm Albanian originally. I grew up in Albania, and then when I was 17, I had this big desire to be in the filmmaking industry. So I decided to move to the UK to actually become a filmmaker. And I did this for a couple of months, did one of those foundation diplomas where you get a little bit of understanding how it works and you get a taste of all the different sides of it. And then I realized that, okay, maybe it wasn't really for me. And so I decided to move on to my university degree and study politics, something I always wanted to do. And while I was doing filmmaking, I understood that the production side of it, I really liked. I liked the organization, the whole scouting. So I thought, okay, this is something to keep in mind kind of for later on, something I enjoy. After my studies in the UK, I worked there for a little bit in some NGOs. This is something that I was very passionate about. And then, of course, as the majority of people, I would say, that used to study in my cohort politics and international relations, everybody wanted to go to work for the United Nations. So it was one of those dreams of everyone in the school. And there were two choices to go, obviously, Geneva or New York. And I decided to try my luck in Geneva. And I applied for one of the organizations, which is called the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, which is a UN agency basically focusing on ICTs, telecommunication and technologies. And I was lucky to work there for around 8 years. So I really moved there in the career quite a lot. I worked in standardization. I worked with the developing countries. I worked with European countries and in a lot of different areas, digital skills, innovation, gender discussion. It was really, really great. And then this year, after that, I decided to try something different. And I moved to work for FONGIT, which is the Geneva Foundation for Technology Innovation, where basically an innovation platform totally supported by the state of Geneva and funded by the state of Geneva. And we support technology startups today in Geneva and for the benefit, let's say, of the state. So this is a total shift as I'm heading the marketing, communications and engagement department here. And it's very different, of course, from the UN, but it's very exciting to work with incredible entrepreneurs that are really doing fantastic things every day.
That was awesome, but you remind me of, I don't know if you know who Jay Leno is at all. And he was a host on Tonight Show. Now it's Jimmy Fallon and whatnot. And when he would have Robin Williams, do you know Robin Williams at all?
Yeah.
When he would have him on the show, he said, all I have to do is say, hey, Robin, and the rest is history. So that's what you remind me of. Well done, what they say. So before we go farther into a little more detail, well, first of all, what about family? Not to get too personal, but tell us a little bit about family.
So I have my mother and my brother also living here in Switzerland. My brother, I would say, is like a huge part of my life. He's younger than me, so I always try to, take him wherever I go. And when I was in the UK, I was trying to get him there, but then he decided to study in France. And then when I moved here to Switzerland, then I decided no, you have to come and be in Switzerland also. So he was very lucky. He studied at university here, and now he's kind of finishing all his degrees and looking at the next steps, in his life. But definitely my brother takes a big part of my life in the sense that we always do a lot of things together. And it's one of those funny things when you're young, you know, we have 7 years of difference. And when you're very young, it's quite a huge gap, right? And people used to say, oh my God, to my mother and father, like, why you have your children with such a huge gap? You know, they will never hang out together. And as we gotten older, we are always together. So it's quite an interesting, I think, twist to think about. Yeah.
It's so true because I'm 7 years older than my brother, and
Oh, okay.
when you're like, let's say 10 and 17, that's huge.
Yes.
But if you're like 30 and 23 or 40 and 30, whatever type of thing,
Yeah.
it's a big difference. And my two younger boys are 18 months apart, but they're also 7 years younger than my older son. And so, yeah, it's funny how that works out. So never beat up your younger or older brother or sister too much, because you still want them to be friends later. So,
exactly. They will still be around.
so when did you discover, you talked about the filming a little bit and then what you wanted to go, was that your moment, if you will, of discovering your why, and basically what you wanted to do?
I think it's very difficult in how the society is created today, because when you are 17, you start thinking what you're going to study. And then, you know, if you see a lot of people around you, some people really know they want to be a lawyer or a doctor, and they know this from the beginning. And then you start feeling like, oh my God, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And, you know, looking back now, it sounds very silly, but in those moments, you're very much stressed and you feel you haven't figured out things. And of course, always the family wants you to go to university and then succeed in life. And they have that vision of success based on their worldview. So you get all of these messages. And when I was in Albania, because I spoke English, let's say a little bit better maybe than some other colleagues there, I was chosen to really do like the assistant of one of these foreign actors that came. And I was literally just translating for him. And this is how I got a little bit in this movie space, because he was doing some advertisements and short movies. And the team there said, oh, you're so young, but this could be great for you. You should go. So I always politics or international relations. My grandma was always kind of putting this into me. She said, you should become an ambassador of the country. And since I was young, I thought, I want to be an ambassador, so I have to study this to be an ambassador. But when I met them, I thought, oh, this is quite interesting. So this is why I thought I'm going to the UK and just trying to kind of see my luck. And when I went there, I saw a lot of very passionate, very creative people that have had the filmmaking industry as a dream for many years. And I felt a little bit like, I'm kind of, you know, an imposter here. You know, this was not my dream. This is something I discovered 2 months ago. And now here I am trying to, you know, get this spot of someone that actually has had this as a dream for a long time. So then I thought, let me go back to my politics and what I want to study. And then when I studied, of course, it was totally different. I thought I was going to do this degree and become an ambassador, but you know, nobody was coming to me with the ambassador job. So I was waiting and waiting for it. And so, yeah, it went like that. And I would say my moment was when I moved to Switzerland, and really I started getting to know a little bit more of technology. So before I was very much in the humanitarian space and, you know, kind of politics, geopolitics, all of that. And when I came to Switzerland, I entered the ITU and I start learning about technologies and how technology changes people's lives and how there is a lot of people that don't have access to it. And those thoughts, you know, really stayed with me. And I thought, this is a space that I can really make a difference. So when you study this degree, you want to make an impact to the humanity and a positive impact, of course. And when I saw technology has such a huge power, I even regretted. I thought maybe I should have been an engineer or a coder or a programmer.
But you raised so many good points there. So, and thanks for sharing it. Number one, the pressure to decide what you're going to do so early is kind of ridiculous. And you know, I'm assuming it's happening there too. Maybe not as much as here, but the university system here in the United States, there's a lot of question marks happening with that. Number one, cost is enormous. Number two, not everybody wants to or can go to college. And even if you go to college, you find out you might not be able to get, you know, make a living even sometimes, or get the right job. And the last thing is there's so many other things, so much other trainings that you can take, whether it's from an electrician to a coder to, you know, we have a client that does these credential education offerings. to people. We're working with them on untapped talent, refugees, veterans, and whatnot that can take these courses and whatnot and be hired and make great money and have a life type of thing. So so many points you touch on when you mention that we shouldn't force people to decide too early, and maybe we should be more open and not judge people for going or not going to college, or the best college or no college at all and all that stuff. So good for you. So when you joined ITU, can you share some of maybe a couple of experiences that really impacted you there?
Yeah, so maybe just to add quickly on your college comment, this is why, for instance, I didn't do a master's degree straight after, and I waited a couple of years, and then I did it while I was working. And then I did an MBA also, again, while I was working, because I really thought that then education would go hand in hand with, my work. And Switzerland is very surprising about that, because here they have a lot of vocational training, so they don't kind of just push you to university. I was very lucky to go to a great university and have a very good experience, but I never thought even about doing something different, right? And here in Switzerland, I see this quite a lot, and the apprenticeship culture is very big, and it works very well. So just to add on that, so I totally agree with you, and I think we should kind of reopen that discussion around education even more nowadays, especially with technology and the COVID and so on. And now for ITU, I mean, first of all, I was, of course, like the first day, working for the UN, I was in awe. I couldn't believe I was here. Yeah, I was super excited, telling everyone. So I started as an intern. Even though I worked in the UK, moving to a new country, people always say, you need experience here. You need to work in the country first to understand. So I thought I was, very smart, and I thought I'm overqualified to be an intern. So for sure I will get it. And it worked out. So sometimes overqualified is good. And so I applied for the job, and then I was very lucky to have a great boss at the time, and me and her, she was really good, very supportive. So I would say she was definitely the first kind of moment of impactful moment. She has been there. She had been there for some time, and she kind of really shared openly her experiences, and then she really helped me to move forward and then stay on in the organization. And that was something that is very difficult to find. Sometimes you have people that might help you but not really go all the way out for you. We did that, and I would say like that was a great kind of push, a first push for me to stay in the space. Afterwards, I would say it's always been with people in the end. So it's never been like a journey of me applying and being the best. And yes, of course, your reputation counts, your hard work counts. So those things you have to work hard, and you have to have a good reputation and positive attitude. I think it's very important. So all of those things are key, but in the end, it always came down to someone either like giving me an opportunity or giving me the, let's say, information about an opportunity. And sometimes we don't think about it. It's really, this knowledge is power. It's so true. Sometimes we just don't have the information, and there are so many better people out there that could have done the same thing, but just I was at the right place. I was at the right place to get that information, which allowed me to move to the next step. So when I look back at this kind of changing moments, I always feel it was linked to someone who decided to take a chance, or decided to maybe dedicate some like mentoring time with me, or decided to just say, hey, like, wake up, you should move, stop staying here because maybe this is not the right place for you, or you have more potential. Sometimes also you are in a job and it's very hard to move because you feel, good, everyone, the job, and then you don't want to go somewhere else and then start to prove yourself again from the beginning. And, you already were kind of the top person, and now you have to be like, not trusted and copy everyone so that they can trust that you're doing the work. So yeah, I would say every moment has been like this, and what the UN has given me, it's a lot of course, connections with the governments, with top level CEOs, companies, and also to understand how to nurture those connections, how to be in that space, things that you can just learn by being in this environment. And of course, a lot of travel as well, which really opens your eyes every time you go somewhere else. I feel like I learn something new, I meet new people, there's a new culture. I feel traveling is like reading a book. Every time it's something new. Even people that have traveled so many places, you still feel you haven't discovered everything. So I would say these were some of the, but always I would go back to the people's aspect, the human aspect that you cannot take away, because it's people that helped me. And this is why when I move forward in life, I always try to do the same back, and take the time, to give back if I can, to, if somebody calls me and wants some advice, I always take the time to do it, because I was that person and I will be that person, of course, in the future as well. And many people dedicated their time for no reason. So
well, that's why you're going to be a great knowledge partner at the Knowledge Impact Network. I can tell right away. So good job on making that happen. I'm happy.
Thank you.
That really well. So that's a good segue into what you're doing now. Is talk to us a little bit about the process. How does that happen? That how do you identify the tech startups you're working with, and how do you nurture them, and what's the investment look like? Tell us a little bit about the whole process.
Mm-hmm. So why I moved to Fongit, and what I really liked about them is that they are a very different platform from what I've seen until now. So you have the typical kind of incubation, acceleration models where you come in, you have a 6 months or a year program. It's kind of the same for everyone. And then you get out and then that's it. Or of course you become very successful or not, it doesn't matter, right? But the program itself is structured like that. And some people are very good at networking and some people are very shy. And so it really depends also from how much you can get out of it. And when I saw Fongit, the model is very different because it's funded by the state of Geneva. Therefore, the goal is very much to create new businesses that last, and those businesses create employment opportunities. So this is, I think, really the differentiator, in the sense that we are not interested in saying we had 100 startups in our cohort and then we don't know what happened to them, or 99 failed. Because the startups we have, we want to ensure that whoever they hire, the businesses they create will be there for the next 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And this is a key at the model and everything, how it works. So there's two ways to join the platform. Let's say the first one is that you apply. If you are a technology startup, if you are doing a positive impact, it's very important for us that you are contributing to the SDGs. What you're doing is something positive for society, which, to be honest, is majority of the startups I haven't seen, any like a negative, let's say, startup that wants to have a negative impact. So that's the first part. And then the second part is, because we are funded by the state, you have to be based in Geneva, Switzerland, in the region here as your headquarter. So this is linked to the funding, of course, not linked to anything else, but you can open subsidiaries and you can go global, and many of our startups have done that. When you come in, it's very interesting process. The application is so simple. It's really, like, I think, one of the easiest, fastest applications, because we have a team behind that looks at these applications and really gets back to you quite fast, telling you if this is the right place or not. And when we are, let's say, rejecting, if you can use this word, startups, is really, we are rejecting them because sometimes maybe this is not the place to be for them, and we really advise them to go somewhere else. So we don't just say, sorry, you didn't make it, but we say, here are 5 other contacts, and here is where you can apply, and please let us know, and we're happy to put you in touch, because we are interested in the whole Swiss ecosystem to develop further and further in the innovation space. So we don't want to let anyone, just kind of hanging alone. Even if we can provide some conference call or a coaching, we're happy to do that, just to ensure that these participants that maybe are not with us, they will go somewhere else. And once you are with Fongit, you get a lot of services. You get accounting, legal services, you get office space, you have coaching and mentorship, which is very much appreciated by the startups, and you have investment relations. We have a lot of investors, angel investors, and other investors in the different groups in Switzerland who are looking at us always to see where they should invest. We also have another arm which we started last year. Mm-hmm. It's called the Fongit Innovation Fund, and this is basically a financing mechanism, and it works with convertible loans or loans, as well as some grants, and we can give up to 500,000 Swiss francs in convertible loans or loans to the startups. They apply to the fund, and they get this money, let's say, for them to, depending on the stage, this is the maximum you can get, and it's really to help them accelerate. Some startups in life sciences, as you know, they have a lot of they need more time, and they also have a lot of things that they have to do, like a lot of tests and a lot of clinical trials. So that costs a lot of money. And you have other startups that perhaps don't need that much money, and they can accelerate much faster. And we have some great examples. Right now, we're incubating 130 startups, or supporting, better than incubating. We're supporting them in different ways. The support is very bespoke as well. So when you come, we see what you need. And sometimes if you don't need office space, we don't give you office space. If you need only financing. So we really look at what needs you have and how can we accelerate you. And we have had the latest or youngest Geneva unicorn, which is called SonarSource, that just came out of our platform. We have a big company called Proton, which is all about privacy email, and they have other products as well now. So these are very big companies which are growing from 3 people, 6 years ago or 10 years ago to 400, 500. And why Fongit, I think, has been also successful is that they have understood quickly that startups take time. So this is not a 1 year, 2 year success model. This is sometimes a 10-year success model, but then the outcome of it, of course, it's great. And we take shares for the startup, but we are not for profit. So everything we make is going back to these funds, and it's going back to giving this money back to more startups. So the only reason why we take these shares is to, of course, show that we have skin in the game, show that we support our startups, and it's great for them when they go to other investors, but also for ourselves to showcase to them that we're not just here, to do this like support around you, but we're actually investing in you because we really believe that you will be successful. And I have to say, a lot of them are very successful. So somebody knows what they're doing here.
Well, I'm talking to somebody that's, I think, part of those.
It's not to me.
But I mean, no, that's fantastic. And I think it also shows them the commitment you have of putting that back into other startups as well. So it's the right thing to do. But if you're talking about sustainability, it's the absolute must thing to do also. So, so good for you for doing that. Can you quickly give us a sense of type of industries or type of companies that, like, what they're doing, maybe examples?
So it's very, I would say, varied. We have a lot of life science, med tech, biotech companies. We have some VR, AR type of companies. We have a couple of companies using artificial intelligence for big data, for real estate. We have a couple of guys doing like microelectronics. We have some others doing, for instance, hardware for hospitals, so machinery that cleans the air of hospitals. We have financial app guys. They're doing this fintech app to really combat financial literacy and ensure that everyone, especially young people, are financially literate. So we have another company that is measuring impact of bigger companies. So they tell you, these guys are saying this, but actually, are they really, is it really positive impact? Yeah. So we have a big variety.
Yeah, that must be super interesting. I'm sure some of the big corps really love those guys. So no, that's actually spectacular. Are the oh geez, I was trying what I was going to say about that, but I wanted to move a little bit based on your comment of investing in them and putting that money back into other startups. It's taken, from what we've seen in our experiences, it's taken decades for leaders to realize that aligning their capital, having commitment and purpose to social environmental impact is actually good for business at the same time. It's also good for attracting talent, because most great people these days, they want to do both. They want to make great money and they want to have purpose and make a difference too. They don't want to have to give up one or the other. So with respect, and by the way, that applies even more so to women, minorities who really want to make a difference and get into a place where they're going to get equal opportunity. So can you describe the impact you seek and you've experienced from these entrepreneurs and their businesses, and maybe one or two success stories of how they put that into play, combining economic and social impact together?
So I would say that definitely all our startups are looking to do some positive impact because we have this as a requirement as well. So we really kind of look at it. What we do is two things. So the first one is when we talk to investors or people that want to invest, we always talk about this like a like startup philanthropy, right? So for instance, if you have a startup that is working on a therapy to combat cancer, let's say through a technological advancement, it's the same thing as if you were donating money to a charity, right? So if you invest your money in that startup, you would be advancing that cause. So a lot of people don't see that as the same thing. They think, no, I'm giving money to charity and I've done, let's say, my positive impact. But actually, by giving money to these entrepreneurs, you are not only developing the cause, but you're from it. So it's a win-win from that side. And also they are going to prepare more products moving forward and maybe move faster than the work of the charity. So we always try to think of this like philanthropy side, that it's a different side of things, and to push people to do this as well, and not only just do the charity bit, let's say. What our startups, what I've seen that they do a lot. So for instance, Proton is a great example, because they're all about this secure email system. So basically right now, a lot of email systems, right, you get like the ads and things like that, and these guys, everything is encrypted, and you cannot have any of this, and this helps a lot of people in countries where there might be an unrest, there might be movements that people cannot use their emails due to various political reasons. And this is, let's say, a consequence or a side effect of what they're doing. This is not perhaps why they started this. They just wanted to have a secure email address where they can exchange with their company members, with their friends and family. But then you have this very kind of nice positive spin where you have individuals that can use this also in countries that perhaps it's a little bit more difficult to use your email and write things that maybe you don't want to be intercepted. So this is a very positive, nice impact where it's coming out of the technology, and then they pay attention to it. So it's not just, okay, this is a side effect, so if you want to use it, great, and if not
Right.
so great. But then they see, okay, this is interesting, maybe we should look at it, we should develop this further. The same thing with Impact. What's interesting with them is that they are really looking at these companies and really trying. They have a network of analysts around the world, and they look at the companies, they analyze, and then they come out with these reports. So it's kind of like keeping accountable these big companies as well as smaller companies on what they do, and this is quite a big thing, let's say, for a small startup to take on, but they're still doing it because they believe in the mission and what they're about. And a lot of them recently were trying to do, for instance, a webinar with some of our startups about the whole certification side of sustainability. So a lot of our startups are creating things, and some of them say, sustainability is my core, but I'm not certified in anything, all the certifications that are out there. And so there is a debate now, should I be certified? Is the certificate bringing me something or not? And so we are trying to look into this debate and hold a webinar for our ecosystem to put some guys that are hardcore sustainability startups, but then they're not certified, and say, this is not interesting for us, it doesn't bring anything. And others who are not really looking at it right now, but thinking, oh, maybe we should get certified. And the whole discussion about, does the certification make you, or is it you who should?
Well, and
right?
it depends on the certification, because you have like B Corp, which is not an easy process to go through. You really have to be committed and so on. But you bring up another point too that I love is and I've talked to other incubators, accelerators, and different names, but that have said, I think to a managing director not too long ago that said, young emerging businesses also have to address, even though they have no time, what culture are they building? What commitment and culture are they building? Because, there's an old marketing expression, you brand yourself one way or another. So if you do nothing, you are still branding yourself. If you do something, branding yourself. How do you find they look upon that? Because they're busy trying to raise money. They're busy trying to make the business work. They're busy, obviously. And at the same token, you're either making your culture good, or it's going to develop into whatever by chance. Do they address that? Do they look at that?
I think this is precisely our work, in the sense that when we give them coaches and mentors to work with them, as well as when we hold these events and these webinars, sometimes people might say, oh, why are you holding all of these events? Just leave the entrepreneurs work on their own and get there. But precisely this is the reason, because sometimes they are so much focused into their world and into raising the money, developing the products, the daily issues. A lot of these entrepreneurs are not managers, maybe they're scientists, and now they're coming into this managerial role. They don't know what they're doing. So it's our role to kind of bring these sessions up and say, oh, think about this. So sometimes they just attend the session and they say, oh my God, I never even thought about this, because I'm not creating a culture actively. I'm just going there daily. And then many of them sometimes, have issues with members of the team that perhaps are not fitting this culture that was not created, but is existing. And then they realize what the culture is. So this is really our role. You don't, of course, some of them, especially people that have been, our entrepreneurs here, the average age is, I think, 35, 40. So a lot of people have been already in the private sector, in the business world. So maybe they've been managers before. So those kind of entrepreneurs, it's a little bit easier for them because they see these things. But we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the life sciences that are in PhD studies, and they come out of the lab, and now they have a great invention, a great company, and they don't think about the culture at all. They just want to focus on the product, and these, it will come inevitably. And this is why we're here to ensure that they have it in mind first, and then how, work in parallel, how you're going to ensure that the culture is going to be created, especially as they grow. Sometimes there are 2-3 of them, and then Proton's case, now they're 450 in 6 years. So of course, without this thinking, you cannot.
Well, and we see that a lot because, again, a good part of our whole business, aside from impact consulting, is we work with leaders who care. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And so, we have a term where you want to get the right fit culture add person, because sometimes just the right fit gets misinterpreted as they're exactly the same as the people there versus the culture add to that part. And so it is really important. And it gives me a chance to ask the question, do you see a role that current and upcoming leaders who care are playing to ensure the well-being of the people that they have and they're bringing in? Because now candidates will look at that too. Is it a place, well, can I work remote? What do you have? Not only do you have a health plan, but do you really care about my well-being? And there's 3 aspects of well-being. There's financial well-being, there's physical well-being, and mental well-being that, I'm preaching to the choir here, all play an impact in performance. And even when they go home to talk to their family, how they talk about the company and influence their kids. You talk about sustainability, you want to sustain a culture of that. They go home and talk to their kids about what they do at work and have the impact and all that. So do you see them playing a role in ensuring the well-being of their talent?
I think so, absolutely. I think people are being very critical today. It's not anymore maybe some years ago you were saying, oh, we are sustainable or sustainable. You just throw in these kind of buzzwords, and then people are like, yeah, this is great. People are seriously being hardcore about, tell me exactly where and what are you doing. And I've had even interns, in interviews really asking, okay, so how do you give back to society? How do you ensure this? And I was like, wow, I thought I was interviewing you, but now I feel like I'm being interviewed. But it's very good points, because they want to go and work in places that they feel proud of, and they want to work in places that they feel that they have a positive impact. And one of my interns, for example, she's studying sustainability, and she's very critical when she looks at things, and then she says, what are these companies doing? Why are they not thinking? So I always tell her, go and talk to them, go and tell them. And like you say, it's up to the leaders of those companies, but not only, it's up to everyone. This is one of those things of whose responsibility it is. Many times we just try to point the finger, no, it's yours, it's mine. No, it's really everybody's responsibility. Even if you are an intern in a company, you should raise those critical questions and make everybody think sometimes.
Exactly. You're 100% right. And what's interesting is, by making it everybody's responsibility, you actually are able to retain and get better performance from the people there versus just telling them what has to happen and how you have to be and everything. Really good people want to be accountable. They want to make an impact. They want to have a say of the culture. They want to be part of the culture. So you're right on the money when you talk about that. And it's the only way to attract and keep the best people is that way. So.
And something quite, sorry, if I may, something quite funny that happened that I thought, okay, the shift, this is a real shift, that years ago when I started working, you had all these and this is such a banal example, I would say, but years ago, you have such a, the water bottles or before people were not bringing the water bottles, they were bringing the cups and things like that, right? So you go to the water cooler, you get the plastic cup, you throw it away, you feel nothing, you don't feel it, everybody's doing the same. And then there was a moment I remember that I was drinking from this cup, and everybody was looking at me like, how you don't have your own reusable bottle? So, right. So this is where I thought, okay, there is a shift now. Things are changing. So,
And it's a great shift. And, you know, most people are appreciative, you know, if someone tells them something, obviously in a proper way, not like, hey,
yeah,
you're an idiot, what are you doing? Not like that.
yeah,
I think it makes people, you mentioned the word pride, and I had a conversation really quick with Richard Branson. I met him a couple times. We're not drinking buddies, we're best friends, but and at the same time, we both talked about how you don't hear hardly anybody anymore ever saying that they're proud of the company they work at. When I was a kid, I remember hearing adults say that. That was a different era, but it's great that you said that word, because I think deep down people really want to be proud of where they work. You spend so much time there, you don't want it to be just a job.
yeah.
So,
We do spend a lot of time. Yeah. So,
yeah, so that's my commentary on that. Last thing I want to say, first of all, again, congrats on and way to go becoming a KIN ambassador. I think you'll
thank
do
you.
fantastic. And you know, in 2021, I had a client tell me something that I have never forgotten. He talked about 2020, and he said it was the year that flew by slowly. He told me, and I thought that was amazing, because now I'm talking to people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where the last 3 years have gone slow and fast and all over the place. It's the weirdest feeling for
Yeah.
so many people. So with that said, we're already almost heading into 2023. Can you share with us what you're most grateful for in the last couple of years, and also certainly what you're most hopeful for?
Definitely being alive. I mean, after COVID, yeah, a lot of, yeah, there was a lot of loss for many people, friends, etc. And it's just really makes you think about everything again, and makes you also be a little bit more kinder, I think, towards yourself and towards others as well, because this really puts things in perspective. And I'm very grateful of being where I am today, in the sense of I work in a great place, I have great colleagues, you know. There's a lot of people in the world that do not have this chance, and it's fantastic, right? You don't stop and think about it in today's society, because we have so much social media, so much things going on around us. We always feel like we're behind. So I think this year I tried to really take a step back and think, okay, I'm not behind. I'm just doing my thing, and it's okay. And you know, these people are doing something different from me or not, but I shouldn't be constantly looking at that. So this is definitely some things that, yeah, I try to. Sometimes it's hard, but I try to repeat them sometimes, yeah, to myself. And I mean, hopeful, I think definitely about the new way of working, I would say, this more flexibility, in the sense that it has opened a lot of doors. Of course, people want security as well, but it's very nice that now employers and companies are realizing, and government institutions, that it's okay, you are still working from home. So it's not that you're going to be chilling if I leave you 2 days of I'm And this has given people time with their families. They have given time to the sports, to do hobbies. And this really changes you as a person. So I'm hopeful that this trend will continue, and it's not just because it was a forced, let's say, a little bit of a trend because of COVID, and it really will integrate in our lives, so that we can become. Sometimes we forget about our hobbies. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I spent 1 month, I didn't read anything, because I only read work related stuff. So I miss, you know, my readings, and I feel that these things are giving us a little bit more freedom, and we are becoming better, and everyone is actually winning from these freedoms. So definitely, I would say this is something that I'm hopeful it will continue.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point. You know, there was that expression, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yes, definitely.
And you could be constantly on that treadmill going 100 million miles an hour, you know, not thinking about the present, but always thinking about, I missed this, I missed that, I missed that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm super grateful to have you as a friend first. I'm super grateful.
Thank you, likewise.
You being a leader who cares, and you definitely deserve to be on this series. And congrats on all the great accomplishments and the impact you're making.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and I look forward to follow your series and share it.
Yeah, please do. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye bye.